Hello everyone, this is Shannon for Waffle Flower Crafts. In today's video we are going to do a really fun paper piercing technique, but we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to do multi-layered, where we incorporate lots of different colored cardstocks as well as lots of different inks. So here's the beautiful stamp set we're using today. This is Lilac Dreams, a really gorgeous set with lots of little details, and those little details are what gave me the idea for this multi-layered paper piercing technique. I'm started by just stamping it on some scrap paper, and then I used some colored pencils to really quickly color this image in, just so I could get an idea of how many colors I would need to get a good range on this image. So I decided I needed 6 colors, so I picked out 6 colors of cardstock, as well as matching inks, so they have like a tone-on-tone look. These inks are actually just slightly bit darker than the colored cardstock itself. I'm going to start by stamping that image from the Lilac Dreams Stamp Set onto each one of my colored cardstocks in their corresponding ink. So this is an off-white colored cardstock, and I'm inking it up into antique linen. And I am stamping it a couple times just to make sure that the image is nice and bold and crisp. Each one of these colored cardstocks is going to be a layer in this image, and this is actually the skin layer. Now this auburn color is going to be the bowl and shoe layer. This kind of golden color is the hair. The green is obviously the leaves. And then we'll move on to a pink, and that will be the dress. And then the last color is purple, and that is the flowers that are in the bowl as well. And I'm sure you may have noticed that I didn't stamp the entire image on each one of the colored cardstock. That's because I'm not using the entire image for that layer. Like for the purple flowers, I only needed to stamp the flowers. Now for the fun part, fussy cutting. I laugh because there's going to be a lot of fussy cutting for this. So if you don't like fussy cutting, you won't really like this technique so much. So I know that this golden layer is my hair, and I've decided, I've kind of worked it out in my head, that this is going to be my base layer. Next will be the skin, then it'll be the dress, then the bowl, then the leaves, then the flowers. Now I just quickly cut out parts that are not part of that layer. So for this layer, since it's a base layer, I'm keeping the whole image, but the hair is the part that this layer is really showing. And so I'm going to be really careful around the hair. So you can see I'm really carefully cutting that exterior line. I want to make sure I keep that stamped line intact. But for all the other parts of this layer, since the hair is this layer, all the other parts like the flowers, the leg, everything else, I can cut right along the stamp line. In fact, even if you just cut that stamp line right off, it'd be even better. So you can be really kind of sloppy for the rest of the parts, but for that, what that layer is coloring, make sure you're careful there. So you can see here I'm pointing out that I did not cut too carefully around the leaves and the flowers. Now moving on to my next layer, this is my skin layer. So now this next layer is actually going to be a little bit smaller because I cut off the hair here. So you can see I cut off the hair, and I did actually cut that stamped line that goes right against her face where the hair meets the face. I did cut off that skin line too, just so it has a cleaner look when the hair overlays on top of the face a little bit. But everything else besides that's not skin, like the leaves and the dress, I cut pretty quickly. I did decide that I needed to cut out her hand and arm here. It just layered better that way, so I'm carefully cutting around her fingers and her arm, and then I'll just snip her arm, separate her arm from the sleeve of the dress, and that will complete my skin layer. And there is a lot of fussy cutting in this, I know, but I do really enjoy fussy cutting. I actually find it really relaxing. So this next layer, again, getting a little bit smaller. Each layer is going to get a little bit more removed. So this is just the dress layer. So I removed all those parts that we've already done, the hair and the skin. So all the hair and skin are removed except for that arm, because I'm going to layer that on later. Now for this auburn layer, it's going to be a shoe. So I just quickly cut out that little shoe here. And now, since I've already done the dress, I'm just cutting out the flowers and the bowl. And again, a little bit of her hand remains on the bowl because it just works out better for layering, because I decided to put that arm on top of those layers. Now the next layer is the leaves. So for this layer, again, getting smaller each layer, I cut out the bowl, removed the bowl this time, and now I just have the flower and leaves section. You can see there. And then I'll move on to my very last layer, my 6th layer, and this one's the trickiest one by far, and I'm cutting out the flowers. So lots of really intricate fussy cutting here, but it's not too bad. You can actually just leave them a little bit more purple and you'll be happy. nobody will notice that you have a little extra purple beyond the flower or anything. So there are all my 6 layers, and now the fun part, it's time to finally put this together. So I'm starting with the hair layer, my biggest layer, and then I'm going to add glue down the skin layer, which is the next biggest. And I'm going to continue to work my way down this line of pieces till I get everything glued on. Now I am carefully trying to match things up as best as possible. The flowers and leaves are not really my matching points. Pretty much her body is, because I was really kind of sloppy on the flowers and leaves because I knew I was covering those up with the last 2 layers. So those are pretty sloppy for all the preceding layers. Now I'm just going to glue her hand down and arm down, right down on top of that bowl, and that will complete the skin layer, and then just add her little shoe there, and it's really starting to come together. The cool thing about this technique is you could really do it for any stamp set you have, anyone. It is time consuming, but I do really like the look of it. It's just a nice way to not color, but to just have a really different look to your images. I think it really stretches, and I like the little bit of dimension that all those layers of colored cardstock add. It really has some more depth. The flowers look like they're popping a little bit more because they are actually 2 layers above the bowl. So I think it's just pretty cool. So now I'm going to take it one step further and just do a little bit of Copic coloring on her face. The Copics I'm using are on screen so you can follow along. I really only use like 3 Copics for this. One to really quickly put a little spot on her ear and make like a pizza wedge for her eye, and then just add a little bit of color to her lips and her cheek. And now I'm going to soften everything, because even those are really light Copic colors, they're still too intense, so I took the colorless blender and kind of lightened those colors up a little bit. And after it dried, you can now see how that's just a hint of a face. Definitely don't even need to do that part. I think it looked really great as is. Now I'm going to start to put the card together. So I took two A2 panels and cut one with the Stitch Layers die and another one with the Wave Texture die. Now we have an A2 top folding card base made from 110-pound white cardstock, and I'm going to adhere that A2 panel that I die cut with the Wave Texture die right onto the front of my card base with some liquid glue. Just hold it there for a second till it sets a little bit. Then I will grab this frame die from the Rainbows panel die set and die cut it out of some white craft foam. This craft foam is going to add a little bit of dimension to my card. I'm going to grab the frame that I made earlier with this Stitch Layers die and just add some liquid glue to the craft foam frame, and then glue the cardstock one directly on top. The cardstock one is a little bit bigger, but that's okay. This frame is just adding a little bit of support. I left the inside of the craft foam frame, as you can see there, just till I glued it, and then I carefully removed it. And now I'm going to add some glue to the back of the craft foam and then just glue this frame directly down onto the front of my card base. And again, this just adds some nice dimension to my card, really frames that center image, that Lilac Dream girl. Okay, so I've added some craft foam or foam tape to the back side of the girl, and I made this sentiment here. I used the Here For You stamp set, stamped it in Versamark ink, and heat embossed it with some white embossing powder, trimmed it down, and then added a little bit of foam tape to the right side of the strip. And now I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue and adhere it to the upper left of the card front. Once I stick that down, my card is done. I'll now hold the card up to the camera so you can hopefully get a good look at all the cardstock layers that we did. I think this is a really great technique if you have a stamp set that has really fine detail and you're worried about losing a lot of those details by coloring. This really kept intact all those beautiful details in the stamp and still allowed to get lots of different colors because we used all the different colored cardstocks. Here's the second one that I created using different colors. I did add one more layer here to make the skirt a different color. So I kind of made it, instead of a dress, kind of a skirt and top. And here again, another close-up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you want any more information on the products I use, please visit Waffle Flower, and you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.